Hello BYW students, it's Mr. O'Sullivan. Today we're going to be looking at lesson 8-2b, finding the axis of symmetry and the vertex algebraically. We did this on Tuesday, but this is the second day of the lesson. So we're going to do two examples where we find the axis of symmetry and the vertex all algebraically. And then tomorrow you're going to have a delta math to practice this skill again, okay? So today's learning target is, I can determine the vertex of a parabola by applying the axis of symmetry formula. Remember, the standard form of a quadratic equation is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are just numbers. To find your axis of symmetry, use the following rule. X is equal to negative b over 2a. And just to give you the heads up, on delta math, you have to write x equals. In the real world, you have to write x equals. Not naming names, but a specific student, if you're watching this Edpuzzle, you know who you are, did not write x equals on their delta math, and it was marked incorrect. So make sure you write x equals. They got the whole question right, but make sure you write x equals. Reminder, to find your vertex, you identify your a and your b values, you substitute them into the axis of symmetry formula, your formula right here. And then after substituting, you always simplify. So if I get something like x equals 4 over 2, I don't want to see a 4 over 2. I want to see 4 over 2 reducing to a 2. Then when you're done, you plug that x value into your function. This will find your y value. And then you write your final answer as an ordered pair. And that's it. And remember, it always goes x comma y. So let's dive into some practice. Practice. Determine the axis of symmetry for each of the following quadratic functions. So if we look above, the axis of symmetry is just this formula right here. So we are using x equals negative b over 2a. So that's what I'm going to write. X equals negative b over 2a. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to identify our a, our b, and our c. Even though there is no c in your axis of symmetry formula, it's going to help for when we end up doing quadratic formula. So the first thing I do is I always write above each quadratic y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. That way I know where my a value is supposed to be, where my b value is, and where my c value is. If I look, I have a negative x squared. That's really a negative 1x squared. I then have an 8x, and then I have a 16. So if I want to identify my a value wouldn't be a 1, it would be a negative 1. My b value is 8. The reason why is because, look, that's the number attached to my x. This is the number attached to my x squared. Now that I know this information, I can plug into my axis of symmetry rule. So my axis of symmetry rule says x equals negative b over 2a. I now write down negative b, which is a negative 8, all over 2 times my a value of negative 1. What's the negative of an 8? Negative 8. What's 2 times negative 1? Negative 2. And what's negative 8 divided by negative 2? 4. So my final answer for this question is x equals 4. And that's your final answer. We are just finding the axis of symmetry right now. We are not finding anything else. We will find our vertex in just a moment. Number 2, we have y equals 2x squared plus 4x plus 1. The first thing I do is I write down y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. I now identify my a value. My a value is a 2. My b value is a 4. And now I substitute. We know our axis of symmetry rule is x equals negative b over 2a. So I'm going to be doing negative 4 over 2 times a, which is 2. What's the negative of a positive 4? It's negative 4. What's 2 times 2? 4. What's negative 4 divided by 4? Very good, negative 1. So my axis of symmetry for this quadratic is x equals negative 1. And that's your final answer. Okay, let's go on to the next set of problems. Determine the vertex for each of the following quadratic functions. Ooh, these look a little familiar. If you look, we just found the axis of symmetry for these two functions. We found the axis of symmetry for negative x squared plus 8x plus 16. It's 4. We found the axis of symmetry for 2x squared plus 4x plus 1. It's negative 1. So if I want to find the vertex, I just plug in my axis of symmetry rule. So here, I'm just going to plug in 4. Here, I'm going to plug in negative 1. And again, whenever we make a substitution, we always wrap our numbers in parentheses. So if I want to determine the vertex, I just plug in a 4 everywhere I see an x. Type that into your calculator and tell me what you got. Very good, you should get 32. So that means my y value is 32. My x value is 4, so my vertex is 4, 32. And that's your final answer. Number 2, I have y equals 2x squared plus 4x plus 1. We said our axis of symmetry was negative 1, so everywhere I see an x, I just plug in negative 1. Type that into your calculator. What do you get? Very good. I get negative 1. So that means my vertex is negative 1, negative 1. And that's it for today. If you have any questions, email myself or Miss Townsend. Have a great day, kids.